Peace and blessings, everybody. All right, I think the music has stopped. All right. Peace and blessings, everybody, and happy Monday. My name is Asia Nasir, your favorite nonprofit strategist of my consulting firm, Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions, and author of my second release book, Nonprofit Doesn't Mean No Profit. So, on this Monday, I wanted to come and talk to you about a topic that I thought was going to be extremely beneficial, especially to founders that are really starting to take their organization to the next level, and they're finding that momentum, and it's moving, it's growing, you're going in the direction that you want, and because of internal changes, internal infrastructure transition, meaning specifically your board of directors. It seems like there's a lag. It seems like, you're not able to do what it is that you wanted to do because you become stagnant, because now you're looking to replace this person or multiple people at the same time. And this is extremely important because if you are running a nonprofit organization, you should have board membership transition. In your bylaws are very specific as it relates to the terms that your board members are going to serve in your organization. So whether that's 1 year, 2 years, but whatever the time frame is, at some point that person is going to be transitioning out of your organization, and you're going to need to bring in some new blood, some new people who may not be as familiar or versed with the way your organization does things and how you run your organization. So there's going to be that lag of trying to get them on board, and that may interfere with the process of you being able to move your organization and keep that momentum going. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about specifically, and giving 5 strategic tips in order for you to maintain your momentum and have a strategy to make it seamless when you have nonprofit board transition. So the first tip that I wanted to share with you today to help avoid that from happening and you end up feeling like you're starting over again. It seems like you're never just getting over that hump. You're just kind of taking 2 steps back every time you take 5 steps forward. Here is the first tip in order to help you continue to move in the direction that you want to go. And that's succession planning. And I know that's something that especially grassroots nonprofits, if you're a first generation entrepreneur, that might be a foreign term to you. That might be something that you're just not familiar with. And succession is something that every business, and make no mistake about it, as a nonprofit founder, you are a business. So you want to ensure that you are consistently building your organization, because at some point you want to have an exit strategy. You want to be able to retire at some point, even if you want your company, your nonprofit organization, to continue. So succession planning should be part of the process, but it should be not waiting until you retire, but also as it relates to board member transition. So when you have a succession plan, that means you want to have someone seamlessly come into the role and continue to do things as normal, so you can keep the momentum, keep evolving, and keep growing. So part of your succession plan should have roles and responsibilities. Every board of director, what is your board of, you should have a job description. So it should be for every board member, for every officer. So that means for the board president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, everybody should have a role. And that should be very descriptive. And at times that might change. It might evolve because every nonprofit works different. While you have the same, every nonprofit has its own individual and customized nuances that you may want to have your secretary or your board member do. So there should be roles and responsibilities that are clear. And that should be a job description. Just like in any for-profit business, you go in for a job, they're going to present you with a job description. That's how you know if you're capable of being able to take on this role, even if it's a new one. So having part of your succession plan should include that, because then that person that's moving into that position already knows exactly what's expected of them, what they should be doing, how they should be doing it. That should be all, and what level of expertise they should have in order to do it. So they can look within themselves and say, am I qualified to do this position? Am I qualified to take on this new role, to be able to make this transition for the organization as seamless as possible, right? And what you should do is not wait until you have a board member that's waiting to transition, leaving the organization. But your nonprofit should be consistently, along with your board members, should be consistently looking for new board members. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be organization or on the board right now, but that means that you're actively looking and putting them on what's called a wait list. We have transition coming at some point, so we want to make sure that we have this transition in place. We have our roles, our level of expertise, what is required, what is expected of it, and then you have a wait list. So you should be, as a nonprofit founder, along with the board president, should be consistently interviewing potential board members and having them on a wait list. So that way, once that board member transitions, you have someone stepping right into place. You've already had that conversation. They already know what's expected of them. It makes the process, that transition, so seamless as possible. It's just somebody coming in and taking it to the next level. They're bringing now what they're going to bring to the table. But as it relates to the job and what's expected, now there's no interruption in what you're trying to do as a nonprofit organization. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is onboarding, making sure that you are onboarding and training these new people coming in. So if say, for example, you have a nonprofit board member that is going to be leaving in 6 months or going to be leaving, in a few months. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you have onboarding. So just like in any job, right? Any job that you have, your first day at the job, they typically have you go through what's called an orientation. That's to get a history of the company, to know, what your role plays as it relates to where they're trying to go and their goals for the next few years. So they have a short-term and long-term goal. And the reason why they share that orientation with you is so that way you can see yourself in that picture of helping move that needle along to get to that point. And then understanding the history of the organization will allow that new board member to be able to see the mission, what it is that you're trying to champion, what cause you're trying to champion, how you've impacted the community thus far, and your future goals. So that way they can sit up here and see themselves as not just a newbie in the organization, but a integral part of moving the organization in the direction that it's looking to go. So you want to have some type of onboarding process. And part of that onboarding process is making sure that you maybe assign a mentor, someone who's seasoned, someone who's a seasoned board of director that's on, that's already doing the job, maybe who, they're going to be replaced with. That's who you should assign them with. So for example, if it's a secretary, that you want to have that mentor, reach out to the new person that's coming on board and just answering any questions that they have. So by the time they leave, this new person have asked all the questions and have done things. And this is part of what you should be doing as a founder or the executive director of your nonprofit organization, is delegating, because you have roles and you have things that you're going to be doing as far as networking and grant funding and trying to find new opportunities for the organization. You don't have time to do that. But the mentor, someone who's on the board, that person who's transitioning, if it's a good transition, can mentor that new person coming in. If it's not a good transition and this is a board member that had to be removed, you can ask another board member to be able to do that for the new person coming in, because it's going to help be able to answer questions. They can, see whatever the job role is, and, make that transition easy for the person coming in as well, because that can be nerve-wracking, especially for someone who's never sat on a board before. They're going to have a lot of questions, and it'd be great to ask someone who understands the mission of the organization, know where the organization has been, know where the organization is going, how the synergy and, how things flow at board meetings. They're going to be a great resource for that new person coming in to make that transition much easier. And I actually gave you three. The succession plan was one. Number two was when I mentioned, setting up your board with the wait list. And then number three is what I just explained to you before, is onboarding and training that new person. So tip number four is when that seasoned board of director is going to be leaving, I would highly suggest, that you have what's called an exit strategy for that person leaving, or an exit interview. So a lot of us work for corporations, or have worked for corporations if we're no longer working for one anymore because we're full-time entrepreneurs. But if you've ever worked for a corporation and you leave, one of the things that they do is they have what's called an exit interview. And I would suggest that for you to make the transition easy for this next person for two reasons. It actually has two benefits to it. One of them being making the transition seamless, but the other one is evolving and growing in best practices for your nonprofit organization. If you have a board member that's leaving, what you can do is you can ask that board member, what went well, what worked well, what suggestions do you have for the organization as a whole, as it relates to leadership, board membership, and recruiting, whatever suggestions they may have that they think would be good moving forward. That's a great opportunity for you to be able to ask, because now that person is leaving. So their honesty is going to be kind of like on 10, because they have nothing to lose at that point. They're going to tell you the truth about what they see, what they may have wanted to see, what they suggest. So that's a great opportunity for you to get best practices for your nonprofit organization. Now, back to how having an exit interview is going to benefit, this transition for the new person coming in as a board member, to keep the momentum going for your organization, is now that person who's leaving, say, for example, this is the treasurer. If the treasurer of your nonprofit has all of the bank's passwords online, say they have the keys to maybe a safe or petty cash that you may have, right? This is a great opportunity for you and the new person now to pass on that information. Here are the passwords. Here is, where you go. Here is the keys to this. This is the person that I go to at the bank. This is my go-to person. And maybe that through that succession plan, maybe they could even introduce that person before they leave, so that way they know who the new person is coming in, and make that transition much, much easier. So if you have a secretary who keeps the meeting minutes, you want to pass on wherever they have that book or wherever they have that binder with all of the meeting minutes, you want to transition that, because the last thing you want to have happen is that this person leaves and now this person is moving on. That sense of urgency is no longer there with that person. Now you're having to, still do what you need to do, and you don't have that information, those passwords, the keys, who's the go-to person at the bank, where's the meeting minutes. You don't have that stuff. So having that exit strategy with the new person, so that way they can pass that information, that would be tremendous for your nonprofit, because now that's going to keep things just going, and then you just move forward, and there's no hiccups, there's no, pause in what you're doing, and now you have to put your efforts in something that if you had just planned, you wouldn't have to be doing that now, right? So that's tip number 4. And number 5, and I say this, and this would be something that's ongoing, but you definitely want to do it when the time of transition comes, and that's building teamwork. Making sure that you're having open lines of communication, making sure everybody is comfortable and prepared for this new person. Maybe introduced this person, may have had a board meeting where you had a lunch and you brought this new person in, not as an active board member yet, but as the person coming along to make that introduction to everybody else on the team. So that way that, everyone on the team can feel comfortable, not just the new person coming in and being introduced to everyone and kind of getting a feel for everything, but for those. One thing about humans is we don't like change. I don't know why, but we don't like change. So the easier we can make it for our board members to embrace the change that's coming, that's inevitable for every board member that's going to be in your organization, that process becomes much easier for everybody. And so everybody's just going in now with the new person, just moving right along. moving right along, making that process extremely easy for everyone on board. Communicate the mission consistently. And if you've heard my previous videos, as far as building up your board and things like that, you consistently want, and even your volunteer management, you definitely want to have your mission statement as something that you reiterate over and over and over again. And I would even suggest, before you start your meetings, especially with a new person coming in, you want to make sure that someone is reading the mission. You may even have the new person read the mission statement as a way in which you start, so that way everyone knows the decisions moving forward, the conversation that we're about to have, everything that we're doing is for this mission, is for the fulfillment and the movement and the championing of this mission. So there's nothing personal. There's no egos. This is not about me. Even as the founder, this is not about you. This is for the mission and the furthering of this nonprofit. So having an email go out to everyone saying, here's the new person, include their bio, things like that, that's going to make it so much easier for your team to be able to embrace this new person coming along. Because as you can imagine, that new person is going to be nervous. They're, especially if this is the first time they're serving on a board, they're going to be nervous. So you want everyone to feel comfortable, welcome this person. So when you invite them to a meeting, even before they serve or at they are embraced, and that their opinions are valued, and that they're going to be, now they are part of your family. They are part of what you're doing. So, those are the 5 tips that I wanted to share. So to recap before, which is what I always do, we're just going to do a real quick recap. Tip number 1 is to have your succession plan. Have your succession plan. Is what they say, if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. See what I'm saying? This is where you can do that. This is where you have your description of your roles, and everybody knows what it is. So if you want to move into a different direction, take on a officer position, you know what's expected of you. Tip number 2 is you should be consistently looking for future board members, even when there is no transition, and create a wait list. So that way, when that person leaves, if it's unexpected, especially, you have somebody waiting in the wings. Tip number 3 is onboarding and training. Make sure you have some type of orientation, so that way you can bring the person along so they know where you were, where you are, and where you're looking to go. And assign them a mentor, so that way if they have questions, they can go to that person, and that person can be their go-to to acclimate them into the process and how you do and work in your nonprofit organization. Tip number 4 is when that person is leaving from your board, have an exit interview, which will allow them to be able to pass on passwords, keys, and any other important things, so that when that person takes on the role, they can just do what they need to do and there's no hiccups. Tip number 5 and last one is continue to build that teamwork, so that way everybody can embrace the change that is coming with the new person, and the new person can feel like they are a part of something beautiful, and that they made a good decision in choosing your nonprofit to serve, and that everybody on the team feel like they made a good choice in the person that's coming into your nonprofit. So, as I mentioned before, these are the 5 tips that I wanted to share with you. If you have a board of directors that you're finding you're like stop and go, take this video and share it with your board members, so that way you can look within yourselves and make some determinations of what tips, if not all of them, that you want to start implementing, so that way you can move forward and make this seamless for you, so that way you don't have that stop and go. You can just continue to move forward and not have burnout as well, because it could be very frustrating when you feel like you're taking 5 steps and then 2 steps back, 5 steps and 2 steps back. That can be very frustrating. So avoid that from happening by taking these 5 tips, implementing it. That's what beneficial knowledge is. It's not just hearing it and saying, wow, this was some great ideas, but actually going back to your board and implementing the change, so that way you can see the change within your nonprofit organization that everybody can benefit from. So with that being said, if you are looking to have board membership development, and you would like to have someone come in, work with your team, work with you in board development, as I mentioned before in the onset of this video, I am a nonprofit strategist, a certified nonprofit strategist, and one of the services that my consulting firm, Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions, offers is we offer team building and board development. So that way you're not just getting this information, but you got someone else coming in and reiterating it in a way that your board can embrace, accept, and then implement, which is the most important part. My email address is, if you're interested in that or any other services that we have to offer once you reach my website, please feel free to hit the contact us at our website at www.utopianenterprisebiz, that's biz.com. And that's how you can reach me. And if you want to know about future content, future workshops and events that my consulting firm will be hosting, visit our Instagram page at Utopian Enterprise, and you'll be able to find me, follow. And if you haven't already and you are on my YouTube channel, so hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, so that way you'll be notified of new content that I do every single week. You'll be notified every single week of the new content. You won't miss it, and you can always hit the replay. But subscribe and follow and share. Sharing is caring. So make sure you share this content with those that you think may benefit. Make it an impactful day. Make it a positive and productive day. Don't just be busy, but be productive. And as I mentioned before, make an impact wherever you go. As simple as a smile, saying hello, or offering a compliment. Make someone else's day and make that impact and live that every single day. See you next week, God willing, for another, live with you. And if you have questions, come visit my Instagram page or on my website, and I'll be more than willing to work with you. Have a great Monday.